you know, if there's any liability there for the town now. Yes, no, whatever. I said that I would bring it to your attention. Okay? This is a night of attentions.
How many more attentive items do you have? Because I know that we need to hear from the road review committee, and we have a couple of other workshop
Sorry,
items
Roger,
as
I'm
well.
taking so long. Do you have the survey somewhere, Nancy, of the town gravel pit? Well, we need to do that, and I would like to, I'm not sure if Sebago did that, or if Uranium did it, Robert Uranian, because he underbid Sebago on part of that surveying down there. Uranian, okay, whatever. Thank you, Dennis. Whose is this, yours? Who gave me this? We have a issue, or we're gonna have an issue down there with our supply of gravel. It's not an endless thing.
Can't snap your fingers in it.
No. So, I would like to know what we have left for land there.
Which piece?
All that is inclusive of the dump with gravel on it, okay? All the town of Waterboro's property.
I think we can go right up the hill if we want.
You think so? Well, to the left, the gravel's gone, and the transfer station sets on the best gravel we got. So, that's an issue that we need to look at it, and if there is,
When we bought all of that land that heads up the hill, one of the reasons that we bought it was there would be an endless supply of gravel.
well, we've used up your endless supply, I think. And to just make sure that we are in somewhat reasonable standings, that we are not confused, I would like the board's permission to have Sebago come out here after we get the plans and have them just flag the lines for us to make sure that we're not overextending or haven't gotten onto some, because I think we're getting close. I'm not really sure. Fred and I, how long did we spend, Fred? 2 days. We can't find the monuments that were there. We knew where they were. I don't know if somebody needed a new monument for their mailbox or what, but there was a stone that stood that high that is no longer there. It was right beside the snowmobile / ATV trail, and now it's gone. Or if it's there, we just so old and blind we can't find it. That's a possibility too.
He's speaking for himself, isn't he, Fred?
I didn't say that.
I think that the board needs to discuss that request a little more because of perhaps some dissatisfaction with a past relationship with that. I know that there was some suggestion that we may want to seek maybe another engineering firm or whatever, and I want to make sure that the board is unanimous in, which way we're going here. If we are going to remain with them and it's just an isolated incident, or if it's time to move on, cut our losses and move on.
Well, we need to know reasonably quick where our lines are down there.
So next week we have that as an agenda.
We'll add that as an agenda item next week, is surveying.
I don't want to survey it.
Oh, excuse me.
I don't want to survey it. I just want him to come out. They did the original survey on a good part of that property. I'd like to have them come out and just flag the boundaries as they were, as they are.
Add that for next week for just discussion.
And I had something else, and now that's slipped my mind.
That's a lot for one night.
I guess that's,
I'm sure it will come to you in the less stressful environment of sitting at the back of the room listening to the road review committee.
yeah, well, I already know what they're gonna say, so I don't have to listen. Oh, I know what it is, I got it right here. I knew it would come to me. I asked you guys, ladies, gentlemen, about this bid that I had to reinstall the guardrails up on Derigo Drive for $1,995, which I thought was extremely excessive.
I remember you saying that. I thought that was, you were going to try to find a less expensive alternative than what...
Well, I've tried to find some alternatives, and the alternatives don't seem to be, responding. I've got two other people. I don't know what I did with that paper. I had it, but I probably left it in my truck. I've been to two other people. One of them said they could get to it in late November. The other one hasn't responded to me yet, so that's the name of that tune.
There's only two other vendors around that that do this type of work, or?
Well, having a driver that drives guardrail post in is not the most popular item on the block,
Who does the state use? So do they have their own driver?
They have their own, Turnpike has their own. Then you've got Gorham Fence, you've got Anchor Fence, you've got Burns Fencing. I guess that runs out of the people that I know that do it, okay?
Well, mainline.
Mainline,
Farm Forest.
I haven't called Mainline, Fred.
Gordon Collins, I'll tell you, I use them a lot, and they were very good about used guardrail. Not brand
I
new.
mean, they want $2,000 to put in 240 feet of guardrail that we already own. Just seems to me $9 a foot's a lot of money to drive like 40 posts in the ground. I mean, we just set new rates on equipment. At that rate, that's 2 days. And we took them down in about 3 hours. They can probably put them up in 6. Just seems to me that's a lot of money per hour to put that fence back, that guardrail back up.
They're the ones you use for Chapman Ridge
Don't
Road?
get mainline,
I forgot about that,
Fred, is that who you use for Chapman Ridge Road?
Yeah,
To put those come out really good.
I've used them any place I put it up in town, I was using them. And one of the reasons is because they always give used guardrail, it's just as good as brand new. And Ray, I can't think of his last name, but he owns a place here on Rocky Lake, but he's the top man as far as installation of guardrail, and he's very good. But he was the one that recommended good used guardrail, he says it's just as good as new.
We don't, like I say, we don't need the guardrails because they were careful taking them down.
No, but I mean, you're gonna drive the post, so, and then give you a price of driving it.
Roger, you have the floor, sir.
All right. Well, one of the projects that Road Review has taken on is doing all the culverts in the town. And what we've done is Nancy made up some forms for us, Nancy Roberts, and we're going around and we're trying to GPS every catch basin, every culvert, everything in the town on every road. I went and seen Tom the other day to try to get some maps, road maps of Waterboro, and they were so outdated that a lot of the roads aren't even on them. So what we're proposing, what we want to do is once we get all our GPS coordinates, and while we're doing this, we're checking all the ditching on the roads, road erosion, the condition of all the culverts that's in there, the size, the length. We're trying to get as much information as we can, and what we'd like to do is get a map and put everything on a map. What we found, one of the problems is, we thought that, or at least I thought, this is a project we could probably do in a few months. after going out for the first time, we can say this is gonna take a couple of years. Now, what we've been doing is, we've been using our own GPSs. And what we have found, standing right next to each other, like I have one type, Nancy has a type, Tammy had a type, they don't match. So before we go too far, I think what we really need to do is get a couple GPSs that we can use. So one of the things we've asked the board is to look into getting a couple GPS units, just the small handheld ones. If we're gonna take 2 years to do this, let's do it right. Once we do get it all, then we'd like to go in and have a map made up with all the town roads, where all the culverts are, all the catch basins, and keep an inventory of what we've got.
Has the road review committee looked into Delorme at all? Because they have some maps that you can use. One of them they did have is called Map Expert, but they've got some other ones where you can create overlays, and they have the handheld GPS that you walk on with a laptop, and you can click it, and it'll automatically go right to the map, and you can color code it, and you can have an overlay of culverts, and you can make another overlay of manhole covers, and you can just overlay them on top and see where everything is. But if you just want to look solely at culverts, you just bring that overlay up.
No, we haven't looked at that at all.
Yeah, pretty neat.
Well, we have a
we were
GIS
talking.
system
Yeah.
that the town purchased, and my hope is that if we can get the GPS coordinates for the culverts, then we can use the GIS mapping that the town bought
The town had.
to put, flag the locations. The GPSs that they were using were GPSs out of a car. I happen to have,
Oh, yeah, I need the,
the TomToms or Garmin's, whatever. I happen to have a Garmin actual outdoor terrain handheld GPS unit, which I got a crash course on how to use. And, but the road review committee is going to need to have the equipment to do this project.
so you can dump those waypoints into the
Yeah.
GIS. Yeah.
And that's what we're looking to do, so, I mean, we don't want to go out and start getting bad readings, and then, put everything into a map, and then 5 years from now, go out and say, well, we can't find this culvert. And a lot of the culverts that we have found are in pretty bad shape. There's some that we have found that there's no bottom left to them. So we're writing down the condition, what we think the lifespan is of them, and then hopefully over the next few years, we can do something to start replacing these culverts. Because a lot of these culverts that are blocked or rotted out are eroding the sides of the roads terribly. We're also looking at ditching. We got some roads that went down that you can't even find the ditches, there's so much sand in them. I mean, we actually kick sand out 6 to 8 inches deep where a ditch should be. And instead of the water running into the ditch, it's running down between the ditch and the side of the roads. We're losing all our roads. And if we don't start paying attention to this in the near future, Waterboro's really going to be hurting when they get ready to start rebuilding their roads.
With regard to the GPS, you have a budget, right?
We put in for a budget, but the budget we put in for was just specifically for the road counters.
And that's been purchased, so their budget's
There
already
were
spent.
specific items, it wasn't any
Right.
operational cost.
Trade a road counter for some GPS.
Seems to
having
me
a-
that
eBay.
we were talking about these GIS maps, and I remember Frank Allen came in and was talking a little bit about them. It seemed to me that you can get the maps, and if your coordinates for the roads on the map don't go with the coordinates that you got from the different GPS count devices, and you add them in, you put them into the computer, it's not gonna accept it.
Right.
Unless you're working exactly off the same coordinates. So-
Right.
So, I mean, there's potential problems there. It's,
The GPS has to be able to interface with whatever mapping system you're using.
Yeah,
What is it, ArcGIS that we
Yes.
have? Yeah. Which is fairly standard. There is GPSs for that.
I mean, we're not looking for anything fancy, just something small, handheld, that we can go out, we can get our coordinates, we can put them on paper, and then eventually move everything onto the maps.
So I think even the best GIS systems are run, what, 5 or 10 feet from actual point? Because it's based off satellites.
Right.
You know, Earth.
And one of the reasons it's taken us so long is, you know, the committee is all volunteers, so we're trying to go out and do it in the evenings, and the days are getting short. I mean, the last time we went out, I don't think we'd done probably 8 miles, not even that, probably 3 or 4 miles of road, and we never got back to the upstairs till after 9 o'clock that night. So trying to do the whole town it's gonna take a long time.
it's about $100 a piece, something like that, the GIS, the GPS.
More than that.
A little more than that for a good
Couple.
handheld.
Couple 200 to 300. If you go with the GPSs that are GIS grade, David looked at those last year or so, and they were $1,000 to $2,000 for some of them.
Yep, so money's got to be somewhere.
You might want to check with DOT too. I think they've done an RSMS upgrade, software upgrade.
Finally.
If you
Because I
contact them,
think, you're still having a hard job to get into that, aren't you?
So old that
I think
It is.
the
It's-
new one is a lot different.
it's basically useless as paperweight right now.
Yeah. For what I've seen of the new one, what they just showed snapshots, it's like in color now, so it's a lot easier to manipulate.
So you
Mr.
know how to get access to this new one, Nancy, or how do we,
But I'll
Yeah, all you gotta do is email Jerry Douglas up to DOT and he can send it down to you. And tell them it's from the municipality and then there's no charge. They might be a $75 charge, I'm not sure. Last time they let us have it.
do you have his contact information?
Yeah, he's on, I'll get it to you, I'll send it to you, it's on DOT.
If it's appropriate, Mr. Chair, while the road review committee is here, the office space that's on the workshop agenda, that's related to road review as well.
Ah, okay. Yeah, that's fine.
The road review committee is finding that they're very short on space. They're sharing the office upstairs with EMA, but you have 2 filing cabinets, which are full. They're going to need to acquire some more filing cabinets. They need a secure place to put the road counters. But in that very large office space that's upstairs, they're using a corner that's about the size of Dave's little cubicle over there. Finding that EMA does not utilize that office very often. I wonder if it's actually the best location for it. If we were to have an emergency where the EMA would have to be activated, like for the hurricane, the office isn't even in an area that has power if the power goes out, because the generator doesn't run that side of the town hall. So I think we really need to seriously look at where is the best place for the EMA office? Is that it? And I think we need to look at how we're utilizing that space and perhaps make sure that the road review committee has more space, the space that they need to do the work that they're trying to do.
I think we need to look at that whole footprint upstairs. Because if that whole front office where the planning board and code office and Dwayne's, when we originally had the planner over there, if that's all being consumed just because we're storing stuff in there, then we need to make that workable office space. We need storage space somewhere, we ought to go acquire it.
That room was originally going to be set up like for a library. We was going to have the old maps up there. We was going to have the aerial photographs and everything up there, but everything just got, all of a sudden it was, general assistance got all the toys up there, and then we started putting racks in there to put some of the records up there. So yeah, it's gonna be cleaned out.
So we need to, I mean, there's a viable office space area there that, I'm not saying that EMA makes 100% use or 10% use of what they have, it's not a lot, but when you look at that whole footprint upstairs, we're using very, very little of it for actual town business, other than for storing stuff. So we ought to look at,
There is a little room up there that's where the hallway goes downstairs. There's like a little closet or a little room there. That's what we were looking at. If we could just have a place to put, like, when we get all our traffic counters, all the road tubes, all the hardware that goes with it, our new laptop, yeah, we've got no place to lock anything up. So
Yeah, that's got a lock and it's got storage, it's got shelves in there too. You mean the little, what we used to call the L closet?
Yeah.
Well, are you looking for
Yeah.
workspace or storage space? Because it looks like there's two different things here. Or do you
the
need
work,
both?
the workspace we got is fine, because nobody uses it up there. We're looking for storage
so why
space.
wouldn't we just give them that little alcove for now,
Yeah.
until we can sort out what's going on?
That would be great, if we could have that, just a place, you know, so we could
What's
lock
in there
everything
now?
up.
It's just junk?
I haven't looked in there for a long
hesitate to
time.
call it junk, but, I mean,
It's
I think
locked,
there's some-
nobody can get in there.
Yeah.
I think there's some old commitment books, but they can come down.
Well, we'll see about removing the archival material out of there to a new location and give that to road review.
The single counter that we do have right now has been out the biggest part of the summer. It's kind of hard. We set it up on New Dam Road, so we got the traffic count coming out of New Dam Road. But once it hits like Chadman Ridge, we have no idea where it goes by having just one counter. The other 3 counters I was hoping would be here by the end of the month. So as soon as we get the other 3 counters, then we can set up grids so we can actually track traffic, which way the traffic is going. Is it going down Silas Brown? Is it going down the Weber Road? Is it going out Chadman Ridge Road? It'll give us a lot better overview of the traffic of the town. But with the one counter, it's been pretty hard to do it. So we've been setting it up on like Straw Mill Brook. We had it out there for a week. We had it on Roberts Ridge for a week. We had it on New Dam for, well, I say a week. I like to leave them out for a minimum of 10 days. Because you get, once you download all the information, it gives you an average daily total of the traffic on that road. So the longer you leave it out, the more accurate your average daily total is.
Can you remember any of the figures? That might have-
Straw Mill Brook, I think, doing 2 lanes both ways was around 6,000 for 10 days.
New Dam Road had to be significantly
New
higher.
Dam Road was,
Just,
it was humongous. I think it was over 20,000. There's a lot of traffic out there. But with this counter, the way we have it, there's so many different ways you can set it up, and different programs you can put into it, that we've been classifying. So I get the traffic going each way. It'll tell whether it was a car or truck, how many axles. It gives speed on everything. The downfall with it right now that we got the laptop, we can plug it in, is I'm getting my spacing is like every 15 minutes, so it's eating up the memory real fast in it. So what we've got to do now, and we got the new laptop, so we can go out and download it without bringing the counters back upstairs, downloading it, reloading it, and then bringing them back out. The problem is, we don't have the software for it. We were under the impression, or I should say, I was under the impression, when we bought the first traffic counter, we bought the software to go with it, thinking that you could use it on multiple computers. And you can't. Once you set it into a computer, it has to stay with that computer. Now, we did talk with the people that we got it from, and we can buy what they call a field license to put in it for, it was under $400. Because he said what he'd do, actually, it's supposed to be over 900. But he says where we bought the traffic counters, he'll put it back like we bought both versions of the software at the same time. But again, it was something we weren't looking for, so we never budgeted for it.
Did he tell you what the yearly maintenance agreement was on it too? Because
No.
usually, anytime on those software packages where you have additional license, there's a maintenance agreement for, updates and things, Just check with Dave, because he's
Dave has
familiar with...
been working with me with him, he spoke to him a couple of times, I believe.
Yeah, that's a one-time license. I'll find out if you get a certain number of updates or not, but it's a one-time license. I don't believe there's any...
No maintenance agreement with it?
Per se, no.
Mm.
I think you would end up buying the update when the update comes out. If you really need it, you can't do with what you already got.
Yeah. Is it memory that's chewing up, or is it storage space
It's
on your
at,
hard drive? Which?
well, right
That's-
now, everything is in the counter, but once you set the counter out, you can't read nothing. The only thing, when you first set it up, and you put it into its count mode, you can see the number of axles, the speed, everything, until you close the cover. And then once you close the cover, like if I went back a couple days later, just to check it, the only thing I'm gonna get is just the count. So you have to download it into the computer in order to print out all the different programs that's actually in it.
I'm thinking here, when you get a counter and you get a project, what is the information that you want on, in that project? If you get a counter that does all these things, number of axles, speed, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, is that dictating the information that you originally wanted? Because you have all this available to you, you're saying, okay, I want all that information. If you were looking and saying, if you're looking at New Dam Road, I'd be interested in saying, how many cars come out of New Dam Road between 6 o'clock in the morning and 10 o'clock in the morning on a weekday? And you put it there for 10 days, you get an average. You do the same thing on Chapman Ridge Road down the hill, so you get a few, then all those cars go in one of three directions. They go out Chapman Ridge Road, they go in Silas Brown, or they go in Weber. So you put, 10 days in each one of those. Now you get the flow. Do you want more information than flow? Do you want speed? Do you want axles? Do you want all that information?
Yes, we do. Like on New Dam Road,
Why?
we're not really, well, on your axle count, do you want to know where the truck traffic is coming from and where it's going?
Why?
And how heavy it is,
And how-
because it deteriorates the road.
Right.
That's gonna determine, if you have to rebuild the road, and you have a road that's getting a lot of truck traffic, you have to consider that when rebuilding
What's a lot?
the road.
I mean, I guess the question is, are you getting so much information there that you say, okay, if you've got several large trucks going, I mean, you see those, and you say, all right, this road needs to be built to accommodate those trucks. But at some point, do you say, well, we've got 10 an hour that come through there, we got 2 an hour. 2 an hour, we don't build the road for the truck to accommodate the trucks. 10 an hour, we do. So I guess, I'm wondering, first of all, what's the information you want, and get that information, rather than saying, we got all this information, now what are we gonna do with it?
Well,
And does it
John-
really matter?
John,
Well,
you
it-
get
it-
all this, the counter collects all of this information, but then when you generate the reports, if that's all you want is the count, then you run a report that says, give me the counts of the vehicles. So you're collecting it all, it's good information to have, and if you need it, you've got it. If you don't want it, then the reports that you generate are only generating the information
But you're also
you want.
buying more computers, you're buying more
Well, no.
storage space, you're buying...
No, you're
The
not buying any
problem
more
is-
storage.
Right, the problem is When they bought the first road counter, they also had to buy the software that goes with the counter. The counter goes out, it compiles, it collects the data, you bring the road counter back in, you plug it into the computer, and all of that downloads on the computer, so you've got your information. The licensing, the software was only good for one computer.
Yep.
They have two computers that they're going to be using, the desktop model that's in the office, and then the laptop. So when they go out in the field, they can plug the laptop into the counter and bring it back. What happened was, the company that sold the counter said, oh, that software we sold you, it's only good for one computer. If you want to use another computer, you got to buy
Okay,
another
I
piece of
understand
software.
I understand some of that stuff, but the issue that I have is, what information, what's the simplest, least amount of information we need in order to plan for reconstructing roads? And is it, and you said, okay, number of trucks and the amount of usage, and maybe the time of day comes through there too. But are we, I would like to dictate what kind of information we're gathering by what we're going to do with it, and know what we're going to do with it first, what information we need, and then gather that information and not all the other stuff.
When you lay the strands down on the road, you can't program that counter to say, okay, exclude trucks, exclude motorcycles, exclude this.
Yeah, there's like 115 different programs that you can program into it. But
So you
on
can
the
exclude
counter,
you can exclude all that other stuff and just capture
I can put out,
passenger vehicles.
yeah, I could put out a single line that would give me just a traffic count. It's just going to count every car that goes, or truck, no matter what it is, it'll just count that one vehicle.
So you can't exclude them. It's going to count that as a vehicle anyway.
Right.
It's just you don't know what type of vehicle.
Exactly.
But if you gather all the information, and when you put it in for your report, that's when you can pick and choose what you actually are looking for. If you want to say, what's our car count that day, this. Then you can extrapolate that from the data that you collected.
Right. Yep.
Yeah,
So I think that does what you
yeah,
want.
I guess what,
I guess I'm confused. Where are we going with this meeting?
when we're putting a particular number on a road that will tell us what its priority for work and for planning purposes, and you say, okay, there's a couple issues. What's the traffic on that road, and then what's the condition of the road? So we're assessing the condition, we're assessing the traffic, and maybe there may be one or two other factors there, but those factors, the more complicated they are, the more difficult it is to make a decision. And I guess I'm thinking that we need to keep it pretty simple, because we don't have any information now. We've gotten some information on the deterioration of the roads. Now if we get traffic on those, and then we can rate each one of the roads as to how often it needs to be surfaced, et cetera, et cetera. But do we need more than that? What's the minimal amount of information we need in order to make a quality decision?
I mean, we can get the minimal amount out of each counter, but all this information is already in there. It's costing us nothing to gather this information.
But if all that information confuses the issue, because one of the things with computers that has happened is that you get confused by too much information. If we dictate in advance, this is the information we need in order to make these decisions, and no more than that, then that's the information we collect.
In the interest of time here, and I'll be with you in just 1 second, Mr. Commissioner, we can wait until you get some data and you can generate us some reports that we can review, and then we'll be able to see
Right.
what
And that would be
information we need.
better, because once you see the reports, and what we can do is print off like 6 or 7 different reports.
Yeah.
And then you can almost pick out whatever report you want.
Okay.
And I would think the traffic counter, it's a road review, they could get whatever information they need. I don't think we need to have other people involved because John may want something else, John may want, down the line. I think traffic counter is for the road review, and I think the road review can decipher what information
Yeah.
they want.
I just want to say that I don't want any particular information. All I want to be able to do is when the road review comes to the Board of Selectmen and says, here's our plan for the next 10 years, and we say, why, and you're able to answer it, and we all nod our head and say, we're in agreement. That's all I care about.
So if I come back and I say I want to do these 15 roads next year, you're going to say, okay, you can do
Well, I
it?
mean, the thing is, if you say these 15 roads
Right.
here need to be done, and we can justify how they need to be done, and if we don't do them, they're gonna cost this amount 5 years from now.
And that's one of the
then we follow
reasons
it much
why
better.
we want the traffic, is so we can get the count on the roads. But if we have just one traffic counter,
Yeah.
and you leave it out 10 days in each spot, you've got a limited window of how long you can leave it out.
Yeah, I think.
So we don't really get a lot of roads done.
We need more than one traffic counter, I'm not going there.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that it can get so complicated that it gets
Okay.
difficult to see.
I think we need to remember Tom is up next.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
I'd like to, Mr. Foglio, you had a question or a comment?
I had two comments, and I'm gonna leave. First one was, Nancy brought up that there's a power issue over there. Okay, this had nothing to do with what you're talking about, but she brought it up. You know, we scheduled that building to come, to have the power taken down. It's costing a lot of money to power that building, because that's all set up when it had a total electric heat. We got a tremendous amount of power running in there. We was gonna hook it to this building, and then that got squelched.
Because if we have two services, because if we put them together as one service, then we would have to put an elevator in the other building. It would be considered one building.
I don't know about that. But then, on to this thing that John's talking about. It's very important that you have a certain amount of information. Number one, when we had the old road counters down in the cellar, I guess, we had speeding vehicles, and there was two specific vehicles. And they downloaded that information, and they found out that those two vehicles were traveling within a 15-minute period every morning, 2 different times. And the same thing every night. Very consistent. So there were two people that evidently lived in Lake Arrowhead that were coming down that road at excessive speed, and they caught both of them because they knew when to go out there. So we turned this data over to the sheriff's department, and Dave went out there and with radar and got the cars doing over 60 miles an hour coming down the New Dam Road. That's the first thing. Second thing is, you've got Weber Road, which is a non-through truck traffic road. So you're gonna put X amount of pavement on that road. You've got New Dam Road and Chadman's Ridge Road, which if you're gonna run truck traffic over it, you've gotta find out how much pavement deterioration you're getting. So if you're getting too much deterioration, you'll know that by your truck traffic, so you'll increase your pavement depth to accommodate the square area compounded by the thickness to equalize the load ratio over the road. Okay? You really need to know more data than you think you need to know, because you're dealing with different types of streets. And in this street, if you go back to our road ordinance, we have arterial streets, we have local streets, we have commuter streets. So when we, at some point, get to name all of these roads, we're gonna have to set up a road volume count, and we need to know that as well as the amount of truck traffic roads to designate what these are. Thank you.
Well, thank you. You all set, Reg?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Can I get that to you?
Tom? You're up. Up here if you don't mind, unless that mic works.
This one working here, Dave? Dave?
Yes, go ahead.
Testing, testing.
I've been advised that there's some other power outages that have occurred in town, and it affects some members of the board who have interests that need to be addressed. So in the interest of that, I don't want to detract from what you have to say, because I know it's important, but if you could perhaps speak a little more quickly this evening. I guess.
Oh, I thought you was going to go in another direction.
Mr. Chairman, that was a very polite introduction. I'm going to give you the ultimate compression tonight. I've told you everything that you need to know at the last meeting. I'm here to answer any questions because the board decided to bring this to a workshop for further discussion. I can give a synopsis of what I said last time if that's helpful. Or
Synopsis would be.
okay. A very quick synopsis is that the town has been awarded a $30,000 transportation enhancement grant. It falls under that huge umbrella of safe routes to schools. Is this a sidewalk grant or is this a drainage grant? It's both. It's just a matter of how you wish to interpret it. Secondly, what type of financial commitment does the town have to commit to? This is what's called an 80-20 grant. 80% of the monies come from the state, who has received it from the federal government. The commitment of the community is 20%. The amount of the grant is $30,000 maximum, and it does not, none of that $30,000 can be spent on anything but design. The state government has decided to break in half the typical enhancement program. Fiscal year 12, which starts in about 5 weeks, will be only for design monies. These monies are only for design, not for construction. If the federal government sees fit to fund all 50 states with construction monies, or most commonly referred to as infrastructure monies, then the feds would filter construction monies in 2013. So your commitment, again, if you wish to pursue, is $6,000 or 20% of $30,000, the total grant amount. What would this do? What it would accomplish would be to design both sidewalks and underground drainage systems between the entrance of the middle school to Friendship Park. What does that equal in terms of distance? 0.53 miles, about a half a mile of coverage. What geographic area would it encompass? Only the westerly side of Old Alfred Road, the Friendship Park side, if you will. When does this...
So there's no mandate that it is sidewalks?
There's no mandate to build a sidewalk with this grant. This grant allows you to do design work, survey work, period.
But the design work has to be towards sidewalks.
That's your vehicle. As with most grants, you need a vehicle to get to something else. To get to this something else, the only solution I could find to the drainage problem was this grant. So, you know, that's part of a town planner's job, is to find solutions to problems, and this is the only solution that I know of that that can be ready, fast money.
Now, you said, Tom, that for the amount of money, the $36,000, that it wasn't much money in the scheme of engineering.
Correct.
And Sebago Technics had agreed to do it for that. What was the deal there?
If Sebago Technics, my first approach to Sebago Technics to do 0.53 miles, entrance to middle school to Friendship Park, westerly side, was $40,000. I said, we got 30, and 30's our ceiling, and that's what we've been awarded, subject to the approval of the Board of Selectmen. And they came back to the table and said, we'll do it for 30, or we're willing to do it for 30.
Did you check with anyone else? Did you check with other companies?
With any other firms, no. I have not. The only reason I approached them is they were participants in the original submittal of the original grant that we submitted a year ago, and they had also done some survey work in the area, so I figured that would be the most cost-efficient. But when you enter into, if the town decides to enter into this, there's federal guidelines that we have to follow, and we would probably, we would enter into a competitive bid. Yeah, that's the protocol.
I want to make sure, I got this right. It's sidewalk, but it's actually, we can use it for drainage. So with the prospect of when Old Waterboro is going to be turned over to us, we could actually have something for drainage. We pay the percentage now, but that does not mean, we're not tied up to go any further than that, right?
Correct. You asked several questions there.
I'm sorry.
The first, no, that's good, because the first question again is, what's your commitment beyond the 30,000 or the 6,000 of the total amount? The total amount's 30,000.
Okay.
So the feds/state would be contributing 24, you would be contributing 6, a total of 30. Do you need to go beyond that? There may not be a beyond. The federal government may not, in fiscal year 13, step forward and even bring construction monies to the state. Furthermore, you couldn't participate in construction
Without the first part.
without the first part, and secondly, you couldn't participate in construction unless you put up your 20% share at the time of construction. Let's say, Nancy, because you asked the question, the Fed stepped up in FY13 and said, we have $250,000, you're at the front of the class, you're at the front of the line, we want to give you this construction money, they'll give you 80%, and you'd still have to step up for 20. This always remains an 80-20. Your commitment now, the other part of your question, is only for design. And it is a predecessor to anything that would fall later. If you, let's say hypothetically, you decided to pursue construction monies, you would have to have a commitment of 20%. Let's say hypothetically there's infrastructure monies coming from the federal government. This allows you to have a shovel-ready project. It's the same dilemma we ran into about 18 months ago. We couldn't do a shovel-ready project because we had no design for any shovel-ready projects. I'm perhaps oversimplifying it, but that's the grassroots of it.
No, I have another, at least one more. So for $6,000, we could have a design done for so-called drainage. Whereas if we don't, what would it cost us if we said no down the road, and then the state turns when we know sooner or later that road's going to be, what would be the cost? Well, it'd be more than the 30,000, wouldn't it?
Well,
For the town would have to, they have to put it.
Assuming all things were
Plan,
equal, for
right?
that section, it would be no less than 30,000. Okay, just for that half mile. Now, remember, it's for a sidewalk and everything that's underneath. Or, as I look at it, it's for everything underneath and a sidewalk on top. To design a sidewalk takes about 15 minutes. The reason is it has to be built to state standards. The state has already designed what it wants and has already the drawings and the profile, et cetera, et cetera. It's what's underneath that's missing, the drainage aspect of it.
And on Old Waterboro, we know that putting a sidewalk in is more than just slapping a little bit of,
It's
Pavement
actually
down,
one of the more
asphalt.
complicated places in town to put a sidewalk because the drainage has to be perfect. Or you have problems with your sidewalk later on. Or as you have problems with your road. It's the same difference. Look at the sidewalk as just part of the road infrastructure. So when you do good, and our road commissioner will attest to this, Fred's still here? No, but Roger will. The whole essence of designing anything with road infrastructure is what's underneath. It's the drainage. It's the drainage. And that was the whole purpose of doing RSMS. It's all about drainage.
Now, this, the fiscal year of this, would it be the 6,000 from next year? Or we assume it'd be coming out of something we already have? Okay, where's the $6,000, where's that gonna come from? What fiscal year are we talking here?
You're talking about fiscal year 12,
13.
which would, federal fiscal year, which is October 1, 2011 to October 1, 2012.
Okay.
The town's commitment, if you entered into this agreement, is that you have to pay all $30,000. The state reimburses you the 24.1. That's in the 7-page agreement, okay? And they agree to and will pay you the 24,000.
Is there a time frame when they'll pay it back, or?
October, right?
Well, no, because if Congress reauthorizes the transportation bill on October 1st, then the monies would become available. After you've completed the design aspect, you'd submit a bill and they would pay you back for the 24. Okay? 80, 20.
So bottom line is, we don't have to budget for 6,000, we have to budget for 30,000, and then we're gonna get 24 back.
Correct.
And that's in June. So the question is, can you wait that long?
Well, there's two ways of looking at that. With the state, the answer is no, because you have to sign a letter of agreement between the town and the state. The reason for that is all the communities that weren't awarded the grant would then use communities who chose not to use it, so that the state would just recycle it to those other people who lost the grant award. The only other option is a bill deferral with whatever company you're working with. That's been done before. And in the consulting world, people have to realize that when they're working with private, or it's been done a lot in the private sector, we defer the bill because that's when we can pay you. In fact, Nancy and I talked about that situation with Woodward and Kern. They sent me a contract saying, we do the work, we want our lump sum payment. And I'm saying, no, I don't believe that we can do that. When we get the money from the state, then we'll pay it. So I'm talking with the town attorney about that tomorrow, and that's on the energy chapter. We're going to constantly run into that situation where we don't have cash in the left hip pocket to pay. And so some of this boils down to, in my opinion, that we have to negotiate on a case-by-case basis.
So what does the state do when and if the public doesn't approve the project in June, and we've already signed a letter saying that we're entering into an agreement with them?
What happens, the exact answer to that, John, is when an agreement of this sort, or any type of state or federal agreement signed, you also sign that you will pay no matter what.
You will pay the net amount.
You will pay what you said you would pay in the agreement.
Even if the people don't accept it.
Yeah, it's the construct.
That's the answer to that
Yeah.
question.
Well, it's exactly how it's written, and I don't believe that I can negotiate that out of the state
No, but
contract,
I'm saying that we can't, and the only, if as a Board of Selectmen, we would step out and say, this is important enough for us to have a special town meeting for. Otherwise you can't, there's no guarantees, and I wouldn't bet that the people are going to accept this in June.
See, what happens, John, is in Article 5 of the proposed agreement, there's a default clause. If the town defaults, the town is responsible. for what it signed in the agreement. And that's the very reason that we're talking it through, because there are all these details, and it's important to know up front.
If the town only had to put up the $6,000, you know, it's a great deal, but we could come up with a whole 30.
Your only other way is if the town could come up with the 6, vis-à-vis whatever vehicle you thought was appropriate, then you'd have to see if the vendor would take a deferral. And the vendor has to accept that responsibility and risk.
So the vendor would be pay out of pocket the 24.
The vendor would eat it
Give us the bill,
if...
and then we send it to the state for the 24 back.
Yes. Until you had the ability to pay or not pay. There's a certain amount of risk management involved here. This is where you'd have to bring your vendor to the table and say, you know, are you willing to take this risk? This is the only way that we can go, that we as a Board of Selectmen feel is appropriate. So, you know, I've read this over and over, and so I've got the contents of it memorized, and so it's my responsibility to you to tell you about those details. And the only other detail that further complicates it is that our best source of large sums of grant money in the near future are likely to be coming through the DOT. So it makes it even more complicated as to how do we continue to build a good relationship with them for resources that we may need for road building or inheritance of state roads. It's complicated. But I'll do whatever, you give me the directive and the task, and if there's something we haven't answered tonight, I'll get the answer to it.
So we're going to issue, the state will have to issue an IOU to the vendor.
The town would, because the town becomes the project manager.
And if the
this.
state fails to come through with the funds, then it's the town on the hook.
The state will come through with the funds because this agreement just binds the state and the town.
It locks the money up, right?
It locks it up for your benefit, but it's still pending a congressional authorization. So, I mean, you got a lot of pieces to this puzzle, and it puts us in an awkward position. It's like a high-stakes poker game.
So they don't have the money now. They don't have the money sitting in an account now.
It's subject to authorization.
I wouldn't bet on that.
Well, everybody feels pretty confident that because this is just a small chunk of change in the big scheme of DC politics, that this money will be available. It's also a presidential year, so it's likely there's going to be additional types of money in different categories available in FY12. So it's a matter of grant positioning, I guess is the proper way of putting it. But I'll follow your directive. You tell me what direction you'd like me to go with on this, and I can tell you every contract that I have Nancy enter into, subject to the approval of the Board of Selectmen, I go through at least 3 or 4 or 5, 10 times for the fine details. And then if I feel any discomfort, I'll always bring it to the town attorney. So that's where we stand.
So,
I like grants, but I'm not getting a warm and fuzzy feeling with so many variables of, you know, we gotta wait for them to approve this and them to approve this, and we gotta have town meeting approval, and if this, if that.
I mean, what you're talking about is having us run a special town meeting here very soon to get an endorsement to go spend this money.
I haven't publicly suggested that, but
No, but in
it's-
order to,
but
in
you're
order
good-
to execute it,
But you've read my mind.
no, but in order to execute what this whole program is,
Yes.
you know, we're within the next 60 days have to have approval by the townspeople to go commit $30,000.
with a reimbursement of 24.
Yeah, understand.
Yep,
But
that's the
we get about a 60-day window here to do what's gotta be done.
For non-emergency,
Right,
a plan.
right.
It's
A plan.
not an emergency, so I don't think I'd go there.
Yeah, Dennis, John, your points are well taken, unless there was some other emergency type need for a special town meeting. This certainly can't fall into the
Well, I
emergency
mean, we're
category.
coming out of a.
May not be the same fiscal year, but it's the same calendar year. We'll have had 3 special,
Yeah, but I mean,
Meetings and the
but
town
the
meeting.
fact of the matter is that we've just come through a weekend where we know that we've got a significant amount of money that we've spent, that we didn't plan to spend. Probably aren't gonna get reimbursed a whole heck of a lot from FEMA. May have to go to a special at some point in time to cover some of that, right, depending on what we uncover.
And
And then go to the people again and say, oh, and by the way, we have this future opportunity for a build grant. We need $30,000 now to just do the design work.
we also could go for additional funds from that campground.
Right. So my put, and then, we can't vote in this meeting, but my put would be, thanks, but no thanks, I guess at this point.
I would
We'd
be
add this to the
agreement, we only
agenda
had
for
to
next
come up
week
with
for
a 6,
vote.
but to come up with a 30,
Yeah, if it was just
That's
six, maybe one.
6, we might be able to find it somewhere in our, squeeze
We
it out of our
gotta
budget.
find, we gotta find 40 somewhere
Yeah.
else.
You know,
Ready.
in the big scheme of things, it would fit perfect, but it ain't the right time, unfortunately. I mean, it would be nice. We know we need to do some infrastructural and capital improvements and for the roads. I mean, it would fit in nice, but down the road, but it's just like, I'd like to have a nice sauna and sunroom in my house, but you know what? It ain't gonna happen.
If you got a grant,
so you're gonna sit in a lawn chair with a sprinkler on.
can't you hook it onto your furnace?
Well, I can, but
So, Mr. Chairman, you said we would address this next week?
Yes, for vote. I would entertain a motion if it's required to adjourn the public,
Workshop?
the workshop.
so,
Hold on.
Right under the wire.
For the work on it, Tom.
Do any members of the board or town administrator have any other questions or things you need me to research? I think you've got all the answers to all your questions. Is there anything dangling out there that you'd like me to explore or
Yeah, CMP wires.
CMP?
CMP wires,
their
they're
wires
dangling
are
all over the
dangling.
place.
Yeah, oh, man.
Oh, John, what did you do?
no, you're dismissed.
Thank you, Dave.
Okay, now I'll have a motion to adjourn the workshop.
So moved.
Second, it's been moved and seconded to adjourn the workshop. All those in favor? Opposed?